Call this Jackson County Commission work session, January 22nd, 2019 to order. Roll call, Mr. Newman.
Sir, Mr. Rich?
Present.
Mr. Venable? Present. Ms. Gilbert?
Present.
Mr. Sis? Present.
We have a quorum. We'll have our prayer of Mr. Porter, our pledge,
Let's pray together. Lord God, our Father, we're blessed. Each and every day we look around us and see the blessings that we have because of where we live, the people we get to associate with. We're thankful for that. We're thankful for these commissioners and their families, the time and effort that they give to serving this community. We're thankful for that, and we pray you'll bless them and watch over them. Guide us all, God. Direct us every day. In Christ's name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, you need to approve the agenda. I make a motion to approve the agenda. And then
I second.
you make a motion.
Make a motion.
Second. Anybody second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? We don't have any awards and presentations, but we got Mr. Morgan that signed up for public comment. Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, citizens. What I wanted to talk to you just a few moments about today is your proposed policy on comments on social media. I provided you a document here that has some quotes from American Bar Association and Freedom Forum Institute, and also Section 4 of the Constitution of the State of Alabama. In this, the reason I'm here today, I'm asking you to carefully consider before you make any decisions regarding a social media policy, particularly taking in lieu the Constitution of the State of Alabama. I'm not going to get into reading all this from the ABA and the Freedom Forum Institute, but the Constitution of the State of Alabama is a little different than the U.S. Constitution in that it states that no law shall ever be passed to curtail or restrain the liberty of speech or of the press, and any person may speak, write, and publish his sentiments on all subjects, being responsible for the abuse of that liberty. And I would ask of you to consider social media as being a form of speech, as it is. Now, there's times as in the discussion, particularly if you get into the American Bar Association, if you read these links, it'll talk about that you just can't say everything. I mean, there is, freedom of speech is a little bit of a misnomer, actually. There's responsible speech. But in context of social media, I mean, who is it going to decide this? Will the chairman decide it? Will the commissioners? Will it be something that a supervisor will decide? Will the personnel director decide? The administrative assistant decide? Who is going to decide if a policy does not serve a public purpose? And this is a point in that. There's things that public employees should not disrupt operations, in stating things on social media, deceit, lies, an intentional disruption of the operation of the commission or the county. No, they can't do that. But let's say if they criticize you, Mr. Venable, or you, Mr. Sis, or if they criticize a public employee that takes into concern maybe wrongdoing. Now, myself, I'd say they ought to come and talk to you first about it, or they'll talk to their supervisor. But what if that goes nowhere? What if they came to you and they still feel like there's a problem? And I'm going to tell you, I've had employees call me on this very issue. I've suggested that if there's going to be a policy and they have reservations about signing it, that basically they seek advice from an attorney if they have reservations. That's what I've told them. I'm not saying, no, don't sign anything, but I am saying maybe you should seek advice if it's a concern to you. But I am asking you to take consideration specifically the Constitution of the State of Alabama, and also ask yourselves, what if an employee says, hey, on social media, well, this is against the Constitution. I don't agree with what you're doing. Will you fire him because of that? So will you fire an employee because he sees something wrong going on that involves a commissioner or elected official, and he has tried to resolve that problem? So I'm just asking you to consider this, and please, and I know Mr. Porter's an excellent attorney, he's gonna advise y'all well on this, and look at all the facts of this situation, but consider what you are doing before you act. Thank you. If you have any questions, hey, I'm here.
Anybody got questions for Mr. Morgan?
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Next, with discussion items for commission. First, the DHR board appointments. We got two appointments, and we've actually got two people put in for them. Well, I think I've sent these out, so everybody's had time to look at them. If everybody's okay with it, we'll just put it on next week to be voted on, unless somebody has a reason not to.
These are the only two we received.
Yes, ma'am.
Looks good to me. I don't have any problem with
Number two is voting precinct. You won't have anything in your folder. I do have some, this is just kind of for some thought. I've got some information here, but it's a whole lot of information, you know, to go over in this meeting. Basically, what this ain't something that's gonna get settled next week, okay? I mean, this ain't something I'm asking to come on a meeting, but we got a lot of precincts out there that's within just a few miles of each other, that we're paying a lot of money just to open these up for 10 votes, 11 votes, and they're within 3 miles of each other.
We had, I don't know if it was the last election or the primary, we had 4 poll workers and we had 3 people to vote.
So somebody
I
did
mean,
vote.
Yeah.
you know, this is all understandable back in the day when we didn't have as much transportation, or it wasn't as convenient to get from point A to point B, but
That's what I wanted to bring up. Back when these were actually set up, I think it was in the horse and
yeah.
carriage day, and I guess it was hard to get through in 3.5 miles. But we got some, these are some of them, 37 people voted this precinct, 69, 14, 72, 64, 52, 51. I think there's like 9 that voted below 80.
Yeah.
And
And
like I
again,
said, they're within, and that's what EMA guys made this map for us. I'm gonna leave this here for everybody, but it shows the precincts where they're at. And I mean, a bunch of these, it's just, it's the money just ain't, it don't make good common sense to keep these precincts open.
it wasn't that big of a deal also when it was paper and pencil and you didn't have to pay for the machine. Now we have the iPad situation and all the other technologies that are more expensive than just a book and
Right.
4 people.
And we're having a lot of issue too with voter poll workers about getting, it's getting harder and harder. This is kind of interesting. The poll workers, the young people just ain't wanting to poll
No.
work. The ages from 18 to 24, out of all of Jackson County, went before people in that age group. And from 26 to 40 years old, we had 12 people. And I mean, it keeps going up to 71 years and older, it's 73. And I mean, so it's the same people working them every time, so we're getting harder and harder to get people to work these for the amount of money that's paid. The average cost is around, and it can vary each one, but it's around 600 and some odd dollars to 800 and some odd dollars each time we have an election. So, if we have primary, sometimes we have up to what, three elections 1 year.
Primary to runoff and general election.
So I kind of just run some numbers. If you figure the 9 that, like I said, I just took the 9 worst ones.
And they were below what?
Below 80. And so if you take those 9 and you average $5,400 times 3 elections, that's $15,000, $15,000 to $18,000 in 1 year.
But some of that would get reimbursed if it's a state election or federal election.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, it's hard to get to hard numbers. I'm just saying that's the overall cost.
That goes over in the area where I'm at too. I mean, there's, I think about 7 7 polling places right there, and some
You're
of
at
them,
4, right?
some of them, you know, you got Putnam Mountain, probably didn't have but 3 out there. And, it goes back to years ago when there was no transportation, and there was a lot more population over that area where we're at. Nobody wants to see it closed down, but, I'd mentioned to Victor, and then Mike had talked about it when he was here, and, you know, he said something about the state paid so much, reimbursed us on some of them, you know, and I said, well, we'll look at it later on, but we're in a position where we gotta take care of what's best for the county too when it comes to money situation.
Well, since and it ain't just your area, but since you bring it up, the one I looked at was Holly Tree, Princeton, and Bishop. They're all within 3.2 miles of Princeton. So this is 3.2, this is 3.2, and it's like,
Princess,
Yeah.
Princess old store up there.
Yeah.
So that'll combine these 4 here.
yeah, like you, let's say 9 miles of Princeton.
Right.
They would all be within 3 or 4 miles of each other. But I got this as a breakdown, like I said, once it's over, anybody wants to look at it, can kind of go through this, I can make copies for everybody, that way everybody can go home and study them, but, and this tells you the miles from each one. So, it's something that I want us to look at, it ain't something like I said we want to settle today, but I think it's something we really need to, everybody needs to be thinking about and looking at. But I'll make copies for everybody, make sure everybody gets these. All right, anybody got anything else on here? Next will be the Auburn University Personnel Project. And I got Ms. Willis come in. And if anybody got any questions on this, what the purpose is. And everybody get it, I sent this out a couple weeks ago. Everybody get that? Does anybody got any questions on it? Does everybody understand what these 2 quotes are for?
I'd like to appreciate, Mr. Willis staying on this and getting the price from Auburn. You had to make several emails and several phone calls to everyone to give you a price.
Mr. Ford, I apologize, I don't know if I sent that to you or not.
Didn't, but that's okay, I've got it here.
What it is, we had asked Michelle to get with Auburn to study all the job positions in Jackson County. And we've had a lot of complaints and stuff since we've done the pay scale. And we've got people off the pay scale. So if I understand all this correct, Auburn's offering for this amount of money to come in, study all the positions, make recommendations of what the scale and steps should be. We've got people doing similar jobs at like solid waste, the park, here at the courthouse, and their pay is way different, but they're doing very similar jobs. So we wanted to, get a third party to come in and look at everybody's job and just kind of look at the classifications and everything. And then this other one is to write a new employee handbook.
Yeah, it's just development of personal policy and procedure manual. It's something that we needed. The last one's done in 2005.
2005.
So it's way outdated.
Several employees have inquired about one too.
We need one that's updated and correct. But, I mean, it's important, but I don't think it's near as important as the job description, classification, and the pay scale. Because this, they taking, you wanna tell them how they do that?
Auburn.
Yeah.
There's 105 different job titles that we currently have. And for any position where there's 1 or more people in the same job title, they'll spend at least 1 hour with 2 of those people to go over the job and what they do. And then they're gonna evaluate the job and then compare, and do research and compare with our surrounding area to make sure that we're competitive.
Yeah.
So it's going to be extensive, probably 12 to 14 months worth of work, and that's not just work on Auburn's end, that's us working with Auburn and providing them the information that they need in order to fix this. And then department heads will be involved because they're gonna come and meet with the employees in the department, so we'll have to make arrangements for that. But I agree, I do think it is definitely needed.
I think it's something.
105 job titles is what we currently have, which is what the commission passed with that classification plan, the most recent one.
I know I had met with, the director at, Solid Waste, back when Mr. Ashburn was here, and he wants to redo his, organizational chart.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's, he may, I don't know if there's any of that we wanna do before Auburn. You know, if we decide to do this, if we wanna approach that before, or we'll wait till then, I mean, 12, 14 months is a long time for them to wait to restructure their office and, their field, you know, people out in the field, so.
We've got a handful. Those are the solid waste drivers. So we got some office personnel for whatever reason just got overlooked. I don't know how they fell through the cracks, but some of it needs to be fixed. And so do we go ahead and fix those while the study's going on? Or do we wait till the study's over and just let that conclusion be it? That's where we're at.
I would like for Darrell to come to maybe the next work session and lay out what he would like to look at doing.
Is he looking at fixing individuals or just reorganization of what he needs?
Like solid waste, just has a driver collector. Well, like Public Works has HMT 1 and highway maintenance technician 1, 2, and 3. So one thing he's going to do is make a driver collector and a driver collector 2 or something.
Now that I feel like needs to be done before Auburn comes in. Wouldn't you agree, Ms. Willis?
Well, there's a couple things to consider. If we do that, and we've talked about it and I agree, and we have a 1, 2, and 3, and we have the guidelines for that. But then you need to look at other departments, such as Public Works. They do have a 1, 2, and 3, but they don't put in 5 years of experience and automatically move to a 2. They have to be interviewed and selected, or else they stay at a 1.
Now,
So,
that's where we're asking Auburn to figure out how they move up and down. Am I mistaken in that?
well, I think it's all of it together.
Yeah, it's all
How-
part of it.
how
But
we-
what I'm saying is that what I think from Darrell, and then Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, is he wants to set out what he actually needs. Maybe not physically change anyone right now, but have it on a chart saying, this is the way I would like my department set up.
What he has some people that just come in and drive around.
Okay.
That's all they're willing to do and all they want to do. He's got some that go the extra mile and learn additional routes, so they can fill in or whatever, somebody's on vacation. And he also has some that, you know, we're in the roll-off business and recycling now, so he has some that picks up the slack on that. They're all getting paid the same thing. So you've got the employee that's willing to learn multiple routes, that's willing to do other stuff besides just his route, and he's making the same money as the other guy. He just wants a way of, you know, having multiple tiers, and then the employees that are willing to do the extra, they should get paid extra.
Right.
You know, they should
But
get paid more.
you spoke to him, does he want to fix that now as far as their
He
pay?
wants to, he wanted to fix it a year ago.
Does he want to visit it and see what Auburn says and then fix it?
He wanted to fix it a year ago, and I think he needs to come talk to us.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't come in and know what this all.
I just feel like we need to have it all laid out of who we want where before we do invite Auburn in, but that's where I was getting.
I don't want to speak for him, but I mean, he come in and met with me and Swills the other day. I mean, it's something he wants changed now.
Okay.
And it, just to go one step further, his office personnel has taken on another part, as everybody knows, the exemptions. Because, and then that, so that funding we were paying for that entity in court has now been dumped on the same employee. So he feels like that they should be moved in a different classification because now some of them are doing court work, some of them are doing, so he's got a proposal
Okay.
for everyone, you know, if that's what you want, and I'll make sure he's on the next work session, just whatever it is.
May I interject something, Mr. Chairman? I would just like to add some thought. I don't want to impede any of this, but just be mindful that when these positions are advertised, other employees see that. So if they have a similar job in a similar department, and they see that it's $1 or $2 more an hour than their pay that they receive, it's an issue. So I think one of the things Ms. Willis is alluding to is it's fine if we change one department, but I think we have to be mindful of there's other departments with similar positions, so if this pay increases and this over here in this department don't, employees know that and see that. It's an issue.
Well, it's like we've got several HMT ones leave to go be driver collectors because it's a little bit more money.
Right.
But they hit a ceiling when they move over there, there's nowhere for them to move up, so.
Right. I just wanted to lay that out there.
Is there any more on the Auburn?
So we're gonna have some more discussion on this before we,
On this?
this here, yeah.
Well, it's something that, if we're gonna do it, we need to move on, because like she was saying, it's time consuming. They have to come in and they have to, if we don't, I'm not saying we can't put it off the next work session, I'm just saying it's something that we don't need to put off long, because it's such a long process as it is. If we don't get started, we're not, that's been the problem, we put it off, till,
We should have done this.
I agree with that, because there's so many things that need to be changed up there, but, you know, I'm wondering where we're gonna come up with the funding. to do
Well,
it.
we could assign, some of it's different, Bobby made that, mention that we could,
Be picked up by different departments.
That's what we discussed possibly, because a lot of it will have to be studied, and a lot of the more time might be in specific departments. So, you know, as we look at the overall cost of this evaluation, rather than 100% of it being a general fund item, it may be something that can be shared among the other departments. Because, you know, like I say, if we've got 25 employees in one department, and 3 or 4 in another one, there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
So it's gonna take a tremendous amount more time to study, say, one department as opposed to another one.
one thing I'd like to say too is our employees are our greatest asset, and I think everybody here agrees that. And the only thing, if we, to me, this is a investment, because if we don't get it fixed, we're losing employees sometimes faster than we can hire them. So we're gonna have to make good changes so we can start keeping good quality employees instead of watching them, you know, just turnstile and leaving and going out. So that, to me, that's the reason it's important.
Oh, I agree, totally.
On the other hand, like Jonathan was talking about, is that gonna create an issue? I mean, everything needs to be,
Oh, I don't
I
think,
think that's what Auburn's supposed to do, is
Yeah.
kind of sync the whole picture to where it is
Okay.
more. Now, how's about Mr. Arnold's department and stuff like that? Some of his state mandated, you might can answer that, Ms. Willis. Some of his, I know some of his promotions, some of his raises are based on getting certain degrees, will that be taken into consideration by Auburn?
that's
also?
actually everybody.
It will,
That's in
and
our handbook.
Okay.
another thing they're gonna do is look department by department, because right now we have certain positions that if you've been here as a motor vehicle tech for 5 years, you move to a motor vehicle tech 2. Kind of like we were talking about with sanitation. But then you don't have that with public works. They have to actually apply for the position to become a 2. So we're not consistent throughout the county with those, but Auburn will evaluate that and determine what needs to happen and then give us a recommendation.
One thing I didn't mention too is, if I'm correct, Auburn will take, it ain't just us either. Once they get through with the interviews, then they go around to DeKalb, different counties to see what they're paying, how they're established, and that way we kind of get on a level playing field.
So we're
with
not
other
losing
counties.
anyone across the
Right.
lines?
and when it's all said and done, their recommendation may be more than we can afford to do, you know. If there's a lot of adjustment, you know, we may not have the finances
That's
to be
what I
able
was
to do that.
saying, we may
But
have
at least we would have a plan that we could implement when we did get to where we could. Or we could work on it, you know, some at a time or
If
whatever.
we could just get it leveled out as far as the monetary amount, if they suggest to keep up with the cab or Marshall or whatever, we could work toward that if we could just know how the steps go to get there.
It's something I feel like we need to do, and I would like to do it as soon as possible, get
Me too.
it started.
And like I said, it's not just money. I mean, it's,
Comparing.
procedures.
Right.
I mean, the job titles, I mean, how we're running everything. I think right now, we're just all over the board. We need a, you know, precise plan and stick to it. And the way I understood it, they would come in with, all right, A, B, and C. You know, this is the high end of what everybody's paying this is kind of mid-range of what everybody's paying, and this is on the low end. Am I right when I talk to the guy
They
first time?
I know you said one university did that. They didn't specify that in their quote, but I imagine they will. That's the way most of them do.
Yeah, I remember talking to one when we first started discussing it, but I think it's out, but I'll double check on that, but.
Well, this is something that if it had been done 10 or 15 years ago, this commission wouldn't be having the problems that they're dealing with now.
Right.
Yeah, it's the
It's just one of
organization
those
that's much
things,
needed.
right, it's one of those things that should have been done a long time ago, and it just didn't get done.
Exactly.
We have job descriptions from 1989, and then some of them are marked through instead of retyped. They're outdated, and it's very, very important that you have a good job description for all employees for the job they do. It needs to be done.
I'm willing to put it on next week's agenda for motion. Everybody else is.
That's good with me. I mean, that's why Bob kind of answered my question right there.
Okay.
Where we at, 'cause I know this is right here, just putting Auburn out there in a position to come back to the table and show us what needs to be done.
Right,
Then we'll have to look further and see
Yeah.
what it's gonna amount to as far as dollar-wise.
right. Mr. Reed?
It'll be, in my opinion, it'll be real good for the employees. I mean, get everybody on the same scope. I mean, I'll be for it.
All right, we'll put it on the agenda for Monday's meeting. Fourth item is HTM1, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. I'd like to group 4 and 5 together, if I may, please, on what I'm about to explain. In your packets, you should find 3 letters dated January 16. And the letters outline recommendations for 1 vacant HMT1 recommendation and 2 vacant temporary labor positions. So the selections that are indicated in the letter are the results of the committee selections from the interviews that occurred on January 16th, 2019, last week. If there are any questions about those selections, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Anybody any questions for Mr. Campbell on number 4 and 5?
Yeah.
Everybody's good with it, then we'll put 4 and 5 on next Monday's meeting. So we'll move on to number 6, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, sir. As a reminder, County Road 59, which was the most recent approved federal aid resurfacing project, it has been awarded to the contractor. We have received a notice to proceed, and we're in the stage now to where we set up a pre-construction meeting before we actually begin work when weather permits. So that's also an indicator to us that we need to be thinking about and selecting our next federal aid project. And that's what this item is in regard to. So in your packets, please find the summary sheet. And the summary, I'll talk about the summary sheet, and I'll talk about the adjoining documents that are with it. Basically, it's we've done what's been typical of the way we present to you all a project to select. We've picked 3 projects based on condition, traffic, last time it was resurfaced, the estimated cost to resurface those, and we've grouped those together. And then lastly, on that summary sheet is a pavement preservation project. So that's going to be a less invasive project, a more cost-effective to cover a longer distance, but it's also working on a road that's in better condition. I will also comment that that is a project that we approached the state with about receiving some assistance in funded, and received some indication that they would be willing to do so after the completion of the Matheny's Bridge project. So I just want to be clear that we put it on the table, but we also mentioned too that that could be something that we see some help with later on from the state. So back to the other 3 that are full bore resurfacing projects. County Road 61, that project is in Pisgah from County Road 58 to County Road 71. It bisects Pisgah School campus. If you recall some of the discussions back previous years about closing a portion of that, trying to reroute traffic. Those talks kind of fell apart when acquisition of right-of-way and land couldn't be agreed upon. But it's been a point of contention with the school system about some measures on making that safer and doing some different things in that project.
Mr. Campbell, if you don't care, on that one, I know, I guess was it just me and you here back when we went back to Pisgah?
Yeah, one of the meetings at Pisgah School.
I know it was before y'all, but that's something that's big on the school system. They've had some kids almost run over. And it is, I mean, there's people flies through there, and that would be having ball games, or even during school, they cross the road. So it's a bad situation, so if there's anything we can do about that, I mean, I think it is a worthwhile project. It's been on the radar for at least 5 years that I know of.
Mr. Campbell, in this project, does it deal with these speed bumps and stuff that come, that's part of the project?
Yeah, we didn't do bumps or humps, but there's a diagram on there that shows some of our recommendations, and it was basically our last proposal to the school system when they approached us about a lot of their concerns. So it's multifaceted, but it includes, and this is detailed in the estimate too, on correct school zones. So that would include flashings, crosswalks, rumble strips, not bumps or humps, but rumble strips. And then also, I think the superintendent is interested in adding some of the radar speed signs kind of as a school board activity or in addition to this. But a lot of it in our recommendation was cleaning up the access management. So it was wall-to-wall access where people could go anywhere, and this will restrict that and channelize that flow to a protected crosswalk. So, as well as the traffic calming measures that go along with the school zone crossings. Getting that proper. We talked about a lot of this back when it was a concern. We looked at traffic data, we did speed studies, and we came up with some recommendations, but the fact is a lot of this involves markings and legends. And it's really hard to justify spending a lot of money in markings and legends when you have really poor condition pavement out there that you know has very limited life left. So, but that's a portion of it. Also adjoining those documents are some pictures that show the condition of the pavement, and a lot of that's worst case scenario that we took there. But the whole stretch of road, which makes up a good project, it's just in poor condition.
What would we use to limit access and rechannel traffic with like guardrails or?
That's an option. Typically just raised concrete islands, or, in this case, something similar to what they have there, which is some raised beds, anything like that, as long as you have the clear zone satisfied. Anything because you're really delineating foot traffic,
Right.
Not vehicular. It's pedestrian traffic. This estimate,
Well, guardrails probably wouldn't work if I'm gonna put an input there, because I see them, kids at Bridgeport there at the 8th Street Bridge, jump over those, climb over those religiously instead of going around the intersection.
this estimate includes decorative raised brick flower beds, and we had even had a conversation taking it a step further with the school board. Hey, if you guys want to come in and do handrail with, something that suits you on look, if you want to make an addition to that, we can have those conversations. But in doing this federal aid project, we have to stick to items that exist within ALDOT specifications. So,
Mr. Dukes is, for our conversations, he's been really positive about, if we come in and do something, he's willing to put dollars in to put up the speed readers and, like he said, maybe some kind of fencing, something. So he's willing to work with us, on top of this to try to do some things for kids' safety, so he's been positive about that.
I think in that drawing we had both, maybe a raised bed with a handrail. Well, it was a detail that's not included in this, but it was in our discussions.
on this picture, Jonathan, where it shows restrict vehicle and pedestrian traffic, that's all agreeable with them. I know you done checked into it.
We did, yes, sir. Matter of fact, when we first started having these conversations, we visited the site. Cars were parked similar to that diagram you see, and you know, it was an obstruction for pedestrian traffic crossing the roadway, being in between cars, and then entering into the roadway. You can imagine was an issue just not only for the pedestrian but oncoming traffic. So immediately, the principal at the time eliminated parking over there. So every time that I've been by that area, they're no longer parking in that fashion. So I think they're willing to follow whatever protocol we set forth on, you know, fixing their concerns and making this as safe as we can for pedestrian and vehicle traffic. Any other questions about 61? And I'll briefly touch on 16 and 90. And
We got road counts on these.
sorry.
Yeah,
Road
right here.
count.
Vehicles per day.
I went up the top, I was looking through the things.
Just the only thing on that, where you were talking about flower beds on here, things like that, maybe something the rural ag department may wanna work with. I think this does have a lot. Maintenance.
Okay, County Road 16. That project that we placed on here is it goes from Highway 71, which is in Dutton, all the way out to the county line. This is a large project, if you notice, on miles covered, lower traffic, and comes with a larger price tag. We left that together for the reason that it was done all as one project last time. There's not an obvious division point in pavement condition in this, as I think you'll see from the pictures that are attached. But it is a lengthy project and it's past pavement preservation stages. So ideally, a lengthy project like this would be similar to like 47. We would be best to catch it at an earlier stage with a less costly treatment so that we don't get to this point with you know, looking at almost $1 million price tag to do that project.
Right.
But we want to include it because it's a major collector. As you can see from the pictures, attention is needed. The score is lower. It's last resurfaced in 2000, but we're looking at almost 6 miles, so it's expensive. And lastly, County Road 90, that's Highway 73 to the state line. It's located in Bryant. High traffic. A lot of folks take this route, you know, going over to Georgia. Last resurfaced in 2001. Not all that expensive due to the short length of it, but it is a major viable route for a lot of people, and you can see the condition is not great either. So a little bit about how we narrow this down. You know, we take considerations on roads that have received paving in the last 10 years. And then we look at the scores that are received from the evaluations when we evaluate major minor collectors per the ALDOT review process. So they're scored, and then we, you know, factor in the data that's on that summary sheet about the traffic and condition, and then obviously the price also. So aside from the pavement preservation project that I've already touched on, are there any questions about what we've laid out on the projects?
You know offhand on the 3 repaving projects, what the scores were on those?
Yes, the only thing I don't have is the date they were scored, but I do have some scores. So County Road 61, that's an excellent question. The last grade I have on it is at 89.
89.
89. County Road 16, the last score I have on it is at 84. And County Road 90, the last score I have on it is a 90. And for 47 is a 93. Now, your local knowledge of your district weighs in here also. So these are just suggestions on what we think would be wise choices. If you have something in your district that we've overlooked, we're not going to hurt our feelings. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's get it on here for review. We'll get some facts laid out. So if there's something that you know is worse or you know needs attention or has a lot of traffic or you want us to take a look at, please let's talk about that.
I wouldn't mind seeing our lowest scored roads. Do you have, if you wanna bring that back maybe next time?
Okay.
Well, one thing is that, too, these are just for the federal money, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
all of them, like we talked about one earlier today that, Mr. Richard brought in, but it didn't fall under, it's not a major or minor collector, so.
Well, the
He
thing
didn't fall
I was
under.
getting at was asking about the scores and wanting to see lower scores if we have any, is we stand there's the possibility of losing federal funding if a certain amount of your roads are not kept above a certain grade, and I just want to make sure that we're not letting any slip through the cracks and put that funding in jeopardy
Okay.
2 or 3, 5 years down the road if we don't address something that needs to be
Absolutely.
addressed now.
We can do that. Yeah,
We
there are.
always bring good projects, and I'm sure there's several that almost made this sheet.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. We're not at a shortage of stuff that needs to be done.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
don't want.
Absolutely, yeah, I can get you a sheet showing the last scores I have and, get those for you. There are some 80s, lower 80s, in the mix.
And what, 80 is what they want it to stay at, 80 or above?
79, I believe, and there's a number of years that it has to be 79 or below for consecutive years before you jeopardize that, which we've never had a road.
Our current funding, we want to really make sure we keep an eye on that year to year, because at some point, we're not going to be able to kick it up.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point.
These experimental things too, Jonathan, I know you checked on there last year where they're doing different kinds of pavement. I know down in Decatur, they've got some things out there on one of the county roads, I've seen the sign. And most of our roads are too far along, I think, far as the ability to come back and do any of that. Is that correct? Last year when we checked on some of that?
Yeah, ideally, pavement management, if your roads are categorized in good, okay, and poor, then ideally, while working on your backlog of poor, you're taking your good roads and you're doing a little something to them along the way to keep them from dropping down into the okay and then the bad. Okay, so you're setting aside some portion of your budget to be able to apply to that good inventory you have to keep them from dropping down. Now the problem comes in when we only receive $500,000 a year, and in order to get a contractor to mobilize and do a project, you need about 2 miles worth of resurfacing. So it costs about all the money we get every year to get a project. So without obligating more funds to that, it's difficult to justify working on a good road only when we have bad roads falling to pieces. So.
There's a spot down there in Decatur where it's on Highway 20, and they put the trucks over in the right lane. I guess they done probably a mile of it. And I wish we could find some information about it. They done it last summer, and it's heavily trafficked.
Yeah.
To see where it amounts to.
There are a lot of pavement preservation technologies out there for good pavement, and it's attractive to be able to keep your good roads good
Right.
and still work on your bad.
Jonathan, can you look, like going to bulk materials, the Department of Transportation is like sprayed
Yes, sir.
coating or sealing on that?
Yes.
And I noticed when I hit it with a truck or even a car, it's got a different sound to it.
Yes, sir.
Is that something that they're looking into?
Similar to what you're talking about when we do on, 47?
Similar, that it's more, Jason, it's a thicker, Mr. Venable, it's a thicker application than that, but, that would be an application, that's HA5 is that product. We did a couple of test sections at DOT with that, and that and other products like it, to what Mr. Sisk is alluding to, if you have good pavement,
Right.
it's like a sunscreen, it's a protective.
I know when I hit it you know, you can tell the difference, the sound, the road
I know
sound.
what you're talking about there.
As far as pavement preservation goes now, we're not doing nothing. We take 5-year, 6-year, 7-year pavements, and we have started crack seal program. So sealing those cracks at year 5 and 6 and 7 is something we can do with our men. It's cost effective, and it buys us time. So in the meantime, until we can have more obligation and funding toward that, we are taking some steps in, you know, what little ways we can to try to preserve some of our better pavements and higher traffic roadways.
Just for people's information, how much funding, you want to tell everybody how much funding we get for federal dollars per year?
Yeah,
I
so,
think that's something important.
yeah, $533,000 a year is what we receive annually. That sounds bad. It is bad. It's not good, I guess. But one catch to that too is it's only applicable to about 25 to 30% of our roadway network. So out of those 2,200 lane miles, you know, you think about here to LA, only 20 to 30% of that can you spend that $533,000 on, and that includes bridge work. Okay. So then you're left with your local road network, which is the majority of the network where we try to do our local road paving with it. You know, it's been about $300,000 a year that we're obligating toward that. But you can imagine, out of that 30% of that network, 1 2-mile project, you know, is gonna get the bulk of that funding annually. So, we have a tremendous amount of bridge work that needs to be done also. So we try to do rehab projects or cost-effective means to patch them back together. And then, or, you know, we have to save up a year to resurface them to do a bridge project.
That's one point I wanted to make was, especially for the media, we spend less than $1 million a year when we should be spending $8 to $9 million a year. So that's the difference in what we should be spending and what we're able to spend. And I think the community needs to know is, you know, it really, we need a lot more to think of what we would like to.
If I'm not mistaken, 6 years I've been here, our federal dollars, our federal routes, major minor collectors, we've only spent the federal dollars on. We haven't spent any local dollars on that. And that $500,000 a year is nowhere near enough to keep up that many lane miles. And that's why I was asking about the grading, because I want to make sure that we don't fall too far behind and lose that, you know, in time.
Anything else on this road project?
This is not something that has to move forward at any pace that you're not comfortable with. I think it's a good idea. Like Mr. Bird was talking about, well, I can get you some sheets, the tabulation sheets showing the roadways, the section, the projects that's been broken down in previously, and the grades that go along with that. So just when you're ready.
Is everybody good with maybe putting this on the next work session? That'd give everybody time to kind of look at these different projects, and we can discuss it again in the next work session.
Yes.
All right, we'll put that on the next work session. And last item we got for discussion will be the number 7 roadway striping. Mr. Cameron, you want to go over it?
Yes, sir, thank you. In your packets, you should find a list of striping that we are proposing. And what's typically been done is we will accumulate citizen concerns, project pieces or projects that have been paved, and we'll compile a list and have that prepared when weather permits to begin the striping. So that's what the list consists of that you have before you. And they are of various reasons. I can just talk a little bit about some of those, but County Road 85, that's Meade Road, that it says plant request in the comments portion of that summary sheet. The safety director from the plant informed us about the striping. It was an issue and requested that we revisit that, look at updating striping and putting some of that back. And it is worn. 74 was a citizen request, 265 the same. 100 was a remnant of a project that did not get striped, that needs to be, and so on down the list. So if you have any questions about any of those, or would like to see pictures, or look at the roadway, or talk to us about it, please do so.
Any questions on it? Is everybody good with putting that on next week's meeting? We'll add that to Monday's regular meeting. That's all we have on our discussion items. Next, big reports from staff. Which meeting?
Nothing, sir.